we're back again. Hopefully this time the stream works, but we're going to get a bit of practice on the GP from Nürburgring for round 3 of the Nations Cup, which I will show you right now. Hamana. Here we go. Oh, first and foremost, we have new races. The first race, Tokyo Expressway, I can already tell. Dragon Trail Gardens in GR3, WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca in a GR3. That looks promising. Dragon Trail Gardens. I mean, I can see that being fun. We did that in the GT, Citroen GT. Yep. So we'll be picking one of these to focus on this week, but we'll also be giving this a little bit of a practice because first race, soaking wet lap, went absolutely not without a hitch. There was a couple of hitches, but we got a third place finish out of the 16 that were on there. Putting us, now we're still first, 216th, and then 1,837th, which makes a difference from the usual 4,000th and the usual 400th. So round number 3 is on Nürburgring GP. We did have the Lamborghini Huracan beforehand. Now, our new Lamborghini Huracan design has went up. G-Force put it up last night. So we need to go to Showcase and make sure that we've got that downloaded. To stick on the car. Just in case. And even if not, look, he's went and put out like a whole... He's put out a whole collection for me. What a man. What a man. What a man. What a mighty good man. So, added to collection. We'll be able to switch that over. F3500. Now, that design can be used for the next round, which is what we're in. F3500A instead of B. We used the B first. F3500A is next. We've got the VSR Porsche design there for the GT3R. We've got the Huracan design now downloaded, so we can chuck that on. I'm going to finish setting things up. We will let the people kind of fill in a little bit, and then we will be good to go. Just need to change this very quickly. I don't realise just how quick they've actually made the loading screens as well, which is good, which is all good for... Now, I'm in two minds because the design that he's come up with is absolutely flawless. There's not one flaw with this design. Can I say that before we take it off? Now, I will say... Shared my items, no, collection, there we go. I'll also say that this design is nice and subtle, it's updated, it's new, it's fresh. Really makes you want to stick it on the car as soon as you see it. You know, you can't really keep yourself still. It does a good job. So the idea behind this is because this is the new VSR logo. This is the new Void Sim Racing logo, because it is going further and because we're taking it further. You know, speed, style, strategy. We have our own slogan. We have our own logo now. Works in quite well together. There'll still be a little bit of time where we're tweaking it and working it, but anybody that's following already will see the progression and the the differences and the changes that are being made over the course of time. So we'll get ourselves set up, we'll let them flood in, and then that's if it floods in. And then once we've done that, we should be good to go. Okay, we are all ready. We're all set. I do apologise for the wait. So we'll kick on, I think. We'll have a little look through these daily races again, because I'm going to choose between Dragon Trail or WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca. I like Laguna Seca. Really don't mind the track either. It's the only thing being that I like that track. But I suppose it's a comfort zone thing, isn't it? So 14 laps. Ah, right, okay. What we can do is we'll do GR4, Dragon Trail Gardens. We'll try that one out. What's the meta car? Let's have a look. I can see there's a couple of folk actually tuned in already, so hello. What's the meta car? The Atenza, are you kidding me? The four-wheel drive GR4 car that seems to be upsetting companies and breaking hearts. That's all I can say. Atenza. Look at this. The Japanese have taken top spot all over the world at the minute. There's a couple of Brits in there. Belgians, Germans. Yeah, they've absolutely dominated the top 100 at least. There's Dre though. Dre at 100th. That's cool. Winning time, however, I think might be sitting very low, 139. If it'll scroll any quicker. 38.6. There's only how many people with a 38? 13 people. Yeah, that's going to be hard to beat. But we'll get the Atenza. That's the meta car. Entry period starts in 5 seconds, so we'll just join it. We'll go off of a whim. We'll try it, and it's all excitement from there. It's all excitement from there. Where is the Atenza? I went past it, possibly. Yes, we did. Atenza GR4. There we go. Ooh, what do we want? Let's go dark grey. Let's go dark grey. I'll match the grey for the brand new logo. Okay. Qualifying time trial. 3, 4, no, much more than that. Much more laps than that. I think we're in for a good practice run actually, so let's buckle up, see what we can do. First couple of laps is going to be feeling the track out, and then we'll really start to tie it in, shorten it. You know, there's loads of places for making time up here as well. Let's see what we can do with this. Any suggestions for that specific part of the track is very welcome. Very welcome. I'm not experienced on this track at all, but I do like it. As I said, it's definitely an upgrade from 15 laps that we might not be able to get in between races, especially on Wednesday. Don't know if anybody feels the same way. I feel like that race just lacks excitement. It's too slow for me. I can't be comfortable on that track. After a few laps, we got a terrible time of 1:45. It's not bad, but learning the track obviously will get a little bit better. Um, what I will say is it's definitely not fast enough for us. Well, for me anyway. It's not. It's not really fast enough, challenging enough. I can imagine with people on the track, obviously, will be very different. But for the time being, do you know what we will do? Actually, we'll get the Nations Cup practice out of the way. But I am going to do Daily Race C. That seems like the most enjoyable one. Okie dokie. Select from Garage because we have it. Okay. We already done a little bit on this. Our time was beaten by our other friend. And both of our times were beaten by GT Racing on YouTube, so what does it matter? Yeah, that's what we're trying to beat. We're in the Hurricane GT3 as of right now. Let's check and see what he did it in, the Porsche. Of course he did it in the Porsche. Let's try it in this car and see what happens. Blow the cobwebs off a little bit. Okay, now we've tried it in the Hurricane. We will try it in the Porsche and see the difference. We tried the new Porsche. It was in one of the races. In fact, it's been in like 2 or 3 of the races at this point. But what we can do is compare it against what kind of time we're getting elsewhere. What we drive better in, grippier. Potentially grippier. GT3R. Racing Meads we've already got. There we go. Let's see what the difference is like. Well, we beat our personal best, which is what we wanted to do, and not only by a second as well. I think we beat it like 2 or 3 laps on the trot. I think picking up a bit of momentum. The best we've got, well, the optimum lap we could get is a one. Ah, right, okay. Well, this is weird. So, all my best sections were in the same lap. That rarely happens. Usually, maybe you've got one section in lap 2, and then like section 2 in lap 4, or like that. So, not bad. We're creeping ever closer, but we will get nowhere near GT racing, that's for sure. We've moved up a little bit, back into the top 5,000. Come on! That's all we want. There's no way we're going to be like this unless it's a full-time job. It's good to aim for, but it's a very slow progression if you have other things that you kind of have to be doing. But it's not far off at all. GT Racing YouTube is actually here somewhere in amongst these 155s. There it is, right there. And he's not saved a lap though, because we would have watched it. Not saved a lap. Oh well. So we know the track a little better. Chances of us maybe doing another practice before the actual thing on the day, very high. I'll probably be starting streaming about maybe 5:30 thereabouts. We'll get into the 6 o'clock, the 7 o'clock. Hopefully we don't need the 8 o'clock or the 9 o'clock, but they're there if we need them. Again, we're trying to get higher here than the silver positions. 216th Britain now. Now they've all got driver ratings of B. Like your driver rating matters hugely on what you get. Like he sat there, maybe moved positions. Then he's got another like 45. Now you can have driver rating C and end up here. Like you can have that. It's just more difficult. The further down you are, the less points that you'll gain for the race that you're doing. So just be careful of that. We certainly have to be. Okay, give me a minute or so and we can start this. We get ourselves entered into a race as well in 10 minutes, hopefully. Practice laps out the way first, of course. This car really doesn't like to be... See, what I've always found with the Porsches is the fact that, yes, very good in corners, horrible at coming out of corners if you can't control your accelerator all that well. Now, me, I can't control it all that well at the minute, compared to what I could. I also feel like my steering, like my corners and that, are a little further ahead on the actual steering side of things, you know, than the pedals are, unfortunately. But we need them to match up, don't we? Just in case you wondered, I'm going to get queued up for this race before we forget and miss the placement again. I don't know what's going on. Like, look at me enjoying the track. I said I didn't enjoy as much as the other one. Hated the other one. Like this one better. Unheard of. Entry period starts in 2 minutes 10. What I'll do just now. Where are we? These are the rules and regulations for the upcoming race. Yeah, 14 laps is a stint and a half, but I mean, we've been there before. GR3 doesn't mean it's going to take that long. I think the worst thing for us is the fact that there's a pit stop and we haven't done it yet. That's always the one thing I want to get out of the way straight away is A, what tyres I need to start with, and B, the minimum number of pit stops that I need to pull off before I can cross the finish line penalty free. Might take a couple of attempts to do that, but I mean, the lap that's on the board isn't bad. I feel like it's completely within my capabilities at the minute, but give it a day or two, we'll be flying with the time. But also means that the people that we're racing with will get harder, unfortunately. Shortcut and penalty weak. Other car collision penalty on. Yeah, everything's pretty much as is. We don't need to really look at any of this apart from apart from traction control. We need to look at that. Active stability management, all that sort of stuff, all that business that you have when you first start playing the game. That's all turned off. Anti-brake system's off. Everything's off. Yeah, it's mediums the whole time. So I think we just need to pit once. There's no tire change unless obviously it's like raining or wet, at least. Much like the round one of the Nations Cup that was just on was absolutely soaking wet. Oh no. Is it the tires? Yeah, it was the tires. Who would have thought? Yeah, man, there's that GT racing again. 121.6. Another thing for us to aim for. We got within 4 seconds. I mean, at some points we've been within a second away. It really just depends on the track. Also, I feel like experience has a lot to do with it. Like if you just know the track like the back of your hand, you're so comfortable. Which I'm not, like, that's not an excuse for anything. I feel like his experience shows, like you'll see it in his driving, for example, like taking the corners, everything's just so smooth. Which is something you just have to, it's like a wall, but once you're over it, you're over it. So you know, we're kind of looking forward to that. Since 16,000th in the world is not going to do. Not for us, anyway. You've got a Gura there. I just seen that. Gura still up there. El Burton. Do we have a Gallo? We do not have a Gallo. Yeah, they're very fast in the top 50, like, very, very fast. GT racing, eh? We're going to get a look at this before we go in. Agura, that's number 1 in the world. We're going to have a look at his braking, his straight line speed, where he coasts, everything like that. So just have a watch of this. And one more time, just for good measure. So we watched there 8 Guras, #1 in the world, analytics for the lap that he pulled. And I seen even for the first corner, in fact, we can actually test it now. Going into that first corner, he goes from right to left, but he doesn't stop braking until like pretty much the very centre of that sort of double left-hander, that sort of flat-headed hairpin. So we might try that, try sort of half letting go of the brake, turning in, and then just as we're sort of ready to accelerate. And also I've seen that he went to the very far back to be able to get that straight line out. So yeah, this track itself has proven to be quite the thing. Well, 127, we can accept it for now. There's definitely time to be made up, but whether or not we'll get that in before the race starts now, you know, there probably was time left in the lap, but I'd already ruined it by that point. Kind of one-handed driving than I whilst I'm trying to talk. Quite excited for it, but it's been a while since I've done this race. I'd drive better one-handed. That'd be depressing if I did. Right, let's not make time up one-handed. Let's not do that to ourselves. Even saving corners one-handed, come on. It's starting now. Let's go. 14 laps, 15 laps maybe, I think it was. Now, I have the subtlest of feelings that we've got a bit of fighting to do, because otherwise we're going to finish in a pretty crappy position. Fighting on this track might be alright. There's definitely corners to just stay away from other cars. But there's some really quick times in here, so I mean, I'm not sure we'll even get close. Given that slipstream's good, we might. So, hopeful. Definitely hopeful. Lucky sitting up there at the start. 911 GT3R, the new Porsche. 124.1. Only... Is that 4 seconds off the meta time? Like, highest time. Oh, here goes the carnage. I don't think we got the penalty because he broke. Well, well, well. Turns out we were able to get all the way down to 6th. Could have had 5th though. Had I not ruined the third last corner or something. But I mean, I'm happy with that. A couple of people skidded out, a couple of people overtook. So that's a lot better than last, let me tell you, where we started. Bonus. Let's see if that's done anything for our driver rating. Hopefully. There we go. Cool, and we can be done with this. Not bad at all. Fairly enjoy the race now I know the track a bit better. I really feel like we could knock a lot off of that time we have, though, because of the race we've just had. I feel like we probably beat our time in the race than we would just having a normal race on the qualifying instead. I mean, we're not going to be able to tell if the driver rating went up anyway, are we? To be quite fair, it's better than nothing. Sportsmanship rating went down for like a brief minute, but that's now where we want it to be. Driver rating needs to go up though. That's a sore thing. Like every time a cup comes around, and I'm like one more race, and it's never the case because even if you're one more race away, if you don't do it by the time you sign up for the cup, it puts you in at the driver rating that you're in, not that you're close to. So even if you're very tippy top of driver rating C, people are going to still be um, throughout the whole grading, whereas there'll be nobody from driver rating B in any of your races. That did not look promising at all. I don't mind Tokyo Expressway, but I don't like it for other reasons. But then again, I said I didn't like WeatherTech, and here we are. But I'm glad I got some practice in, and I'm glad I was able to see a little bit more of the track. Especially, I done it on the controller, but I hadn't had the rig out, so doing it on the wheel and pedals was completely different. I'm sure we beat our time anyway. We did. Also, a good race on Laguna Seca, coming 16th to 6th. You know, not bad at all. Not bad at all. But that's me, all tuckered out. Preparation for Wednesday, pretty much tonight, was just to get a better idea of the track, better look at the daily races for today, because they were updated maybe like 6 this morning. I think they were updated at. So when I could get around to it, I made sure that I got on and at least put these out there for anybody that hasn't looked, or anybody that maybe doesn't have the game. It's just interested in what races are on, what's happening. It's good for that as well. But as of right now, sorry about that. As of right now, that is me for the night. But my next stream will be Wednesday, but I mean, I might put another stream up. Just before the Nations Cup on Wednesday, maybe even for an hour tomorrow night, just to spruce things up and just sort of get the track back into the brain. But that's us for now. So Wednesday's the day. Not a very good outro credit with a car that doesn't have your decal on it. I've just realised. We can do better next time, I suppose. Do better. Porsche. It needs to be there for the outro. We can't not have the Porsche. There we go. 911 RSR, that's a good design. Right, finally. Right, thank you very much. Jesus, I thought it was going to take me all night.